Why do those who wear the brightest smiles sometimes harbor the deepest wounds? At face value, a smile signals happiness, warmth, and connection. Yet for many, that smile masks a silent struggle, an inner world of pain carefully hidden from view. The laughter we see may be less a reflection of joy and more a defense, a fragile shield crafted to protect against vulnerability and judgment. This paradox invites us to look beyond appearances and question what lies beneath the social mask. The smile, in some cases, is not a simple expression of emotion, but a complex psychological gesture, one that conceals as much as it reveals. Carl Jung, one of the foremost explorers of the human psyche, shed light on this tension through his concepts of the persona and the shadow. The persona is the mask we present to the world, shaped by social expectations and the roles we adopt. It allows us to function and be accepted. However, beneath this mask lies the shadow, the hidden, often painful parts of ourselves that we deny or repress. Reflecting this inner conflict, a paraphrased quote attributed to Jung encapsulates the silent torment behind the smile. "I don't even know myself. Sometimes I act like I'm fine, but inside, I'm screaming." This split between outward appearance and inner reality reveals the emotional complexity behind the simple act of smiling. By acknowledging this hidden pain, we open ourselves to deeper empathy, not only for those who always smile, but for the universal human condition where light and shadow coexist within us all. Carl Jung's concept of the persona offers a profound framework for understanding why some people seem to wear smiles so effortlessly, and yet carry deep, hidden pain beneath them. The persona, in Jungian psychology, is the social mask or identity that an individual adopts to present themselves to the outside world. It is the image shaped by cultural expectations, social roles, and personal aspirations. A carefully crafted front designed to facilitate acceptance, safety, and belonging. In everyday life, everyone develops a persona to some degree. We dress a certain way, speak a certain way, and behave according to what we believe others expect from us, whether as a professional, a friend, a parent, or simply as a member of society. The persona helps us navigate social interactions smoothly by conforming to the rules and norms of our environment. It is adaptive and necessary. However, problems arise when the persona becomes too rigid, or when an individual over-identifies with this social mask, mistaking it for their entire identity. The always smiling person often falls into this trap. Their smile is not just a spontaneous expression of genuine happiness. It is part of the persona they have constructed to be seen as positive, strong, likable, or okay in the eyes of others. This smile becomes a habitual performance, a shield that hides any sign of weakness, sadness, or vulnerability. This over-identification with the smiling persona may stem from early life experiences. Perhaps the person learned that showing pain was unsafe or unacceptable, or that their value was tied to how pleasing or untroubled they appeared to others. Over time, the smile becomes less an authentic expression and more a social role they must maintain to feel secure or worthy. The psychological cost of this dynamic is significant. Beneath the smiling mask lies the shadow, Jung's term for the unconscious parts of the self that are disowned, repressed, or hidden because they conflict with the idealized persona. The shadow contains emotions, impulses, fears, and memories that the individual may find too painful, shameful, or unacceptable to acknowledge openly. When someone continuously suppresses these authentic feelings and parts of themselves, the shadow grows stronger in the unconscious, creating internal tension and fragmentation. This repression can manifest in various ways: anxiety, depression, emotional numbness, or even psychosomatic symptoms. The smile, in this sense, becomes a barrier not only to others but also to the self, preventing genuine self-awareness and emotional integration. Jung emphasized that psychological health requires the integration of the persona and the shadow, recognizing and accepting one's hidden or painful aspects rather than denying them. Without this integration, the persona becomes a fragile mask prone to cracking under pressure. The more an individual invests their identity in the smile, the more vulnerable they become to emotional exhaustion and breakdown. For the always smiling individual, the smile is both a comfort and a prison. It comforts by protecting them from judgment and rejection, but it also imprisons them by forcing them to hide their true selves, creating a profound internal loneliness. This dynamic explains why those who appear happiest on the surface may actually be wrestling with some of the deepest wounds inside. Understanding the persona and the shadow is the first step toward empathy and healing. It allows us to see beyond the smile, not as a simple sign of joy, but as a complex psychological act with roots in survival, identity, and the human struggle for wholeness. Sigmund Freud's pioneering work on the unconscious mind provides a crucial foundation for understanding the hidden pain that often lies beneath an outwardly cheerful facade. According to Freud, much of our emotional life occurs beneath conscious awareness, where painful memories, desires, and conflicts are pushed into the unconscious through a process known as repression. This mechanism protects the individual from psychological distress by keeping threatening or unacceptable feelings out of conscious thought. However, repression does not eliminate these feelings. Instead, they remain active beneath the surface, influencing behavior and emotional experience in subtle and sometimes paradoxical ways. For those who smile constantly, Freud's theory suggests that their cheerful exterior may be a defense against the unconscious pain they have repressed. Emotional trauma, whether from childhood wounds, loss, neglect, or other forms of suffering, can be so overwhelming or shameful that the individual unconsciously banishes it from awareness. Yet, the distress stored in the unconscious does not disappear. Rather, it seeks expression through other channels, often manifesting indirectly through behaviors and emotions that seem incongruent with the person's inner reality. One such manifestation is compulsive smiling or excessively positive behavior, which can be understood through Freud's concept of defense mechanisms, psychological strategies employed unconsciously to protect the self from anxiety or conflict. Among these mechanisms, reaction formation is particularly relevant. Reaction formation occurs when a person replaces unacceptable or threatening impulses with their opposite. In this case, a person who feels deep sadness, anger, or fear may unconsciously adopt an exaggeratedly happy and smiling demeanor to counterbalance those painful emotions. This phenomenon can be seen in everyday life. Someone who smiles all the time might do so not because they genuinely feel joy, but because their unconscious mind compels them to present an acceptable emotional state to themselves and others. The smile acts as a shield, repelling not only external questions or concerns, but also internal awareness of the emotional wounds they have tried to bury. Freud's model also explains how such repression and defense mechanisms can create a split within the psyche, an internal conflict between conscious and unconscious parts of the mind. The smiling mask belongs to the conscious identity, carefully constructed to maintain social approval and self-esteem. Meanwhile, the repressed pain and distress remain locked in the unconscious, often surfacing in dreams, slips of the tongue, psychosomatic symptoms, or unexplained feelings of anxiety or emptiness. This split creates psychological tension. The more the individual insists on the smiling facade, the more energy it requires to maintain this denial of true feelings. Over time, this can lead to emotional exhaustion, depression, or breakdowns, especially if the underlying trauma remains unaddressed. Freud recognized that repression is only a temporary solution. Healing requires bringing unconscious material into conscious awareness, a process central to psychoanalysis. Understanding the unconscious roots of hidden pain sheds light on why the always smiling individuals may seem paradoxically fragile. Their smiles conceal a battlefield of unprocessed emotions, where unresolved trauma continues to exert influence. The compulsive need to smile and appear happy is a psychological coping strategy, a defense against the overwhelming anxiety of facing their inner pain directly. Moreover, Freud's insights remind us that beneath every smile is a complex human being whose internal world cannot be fully known or judged by surface appearances. The cheerful demeanor may be a cry for help in disguise, a way to signal distress while avoiding vulnerability or rejection. This perspective also challenges common social attitudes that equate smiling with happiness or emotional health. It encourages a deeper sensitivity and awareness, urging us to consider that those who always smile might be struggling silently with wounds that words cannot easily express. In this way, Freud's theory provides a compassionate framework to see beyond the mask and recognize the complexity of human suffering hidden beneath the smile. James Hillman, a profound voice in post-Jungian psychology, offers a poetic and archetypal lens through which to view the hidden depths beneath the smiling face. His approach to the psyche centers on the concept of the soul, a dimension of human experience that is rich with longing, imagination, and metaphor. For Hillman, psychological wounds are not merely dysfunctions to be fixed, but are essential to the soul's narrative and expression. They hold meaning, depth, and often a call toward healing not just the individual but the larger community. In this light, the person who smiles constantly may embody what Hillman calls the wounded healer archetype, an archetypal figure who conceals their own hurt while simultaneously offering healing or comfort to others. This archetype, deeply rooted in myth and psychology, illustrates a paradox of the soul. Healing is born through wounding, and the very scars one hides can become the source of profound empathy and insight. The always smiling individual, then, may not simply be masking pain out of denial, but may be enacting a soul role. Their smile serves as a form of protection and connection, an attempt to bear their own wounds while sustaining others, to maintain a semblance of wholeness in the face of fragmentation. They may become the quiet caregivers, the emotional anchors, or the invisible support systems in their communities, all the while nursing their own concealed sorrow. Hillman's archetypal psychology invites us to honor this depth beneath the surface image, recognizing that the smile is not a superficial disguise but part of a complex soul drama. The smile can be a vessel for ambiguity, both a mask and a revelation, both strength and vulnerability, both concealment and expression. It calls us to look beyond the obvious and listen with imagination to what the soul might be communicating in metaphor and symbol. Importantly, Hillman reminds us that psychological pain has its own value and meaning within the psyche's larger story. The wounded soul carries not only suffering, but also wisdom, creative potential, and a unique perspective on life's mysteries. To deny this pain or to pathologize it as merely a problem risks cutting off the very life force that animates the soul's narrative. In practical terms, this means that those who always smile may benefit not only from traditional psychological interventions, but from approaches that engage the soul's imagination and metaphorical language, such as art, mythology, poetry, and ritual. These avenues allow the wounded healer to express the inexpressible and to transform pain into meaning. Hillman also emphasizes that honoring the wounded soul requires a cultural shift in how we perceive strength and vulnerability. In a society that often prizes stoicism and surface happiness, the deeper and more complex experience of soul suffering can be overlooked or dismissed. Recognizing the wounded healer archetype challenges us to appreciate the courage involved in sustaining a smile while carrying unseen burdens. This perspective encourages compassion, not only toward others, but toward oneself. For the always smiling person, it offers a path to self-honoring, acknowledging the wounds without shame, embracing the soul's longings, and allowing space for authentic expression beneath the mask. Ultimately, Hillman's soul psychology deepens our understanding of the paradoxical nature of the smile. It is a dance between concealment and revelation, pain and healing, isolation and connection. The smiling face becomes a sacred site where the soul's wounds and strengths meet, a testament to human complexity and resilience. In the next section, we will explore the interpersonal dynamics surrounding the always smiling person, examining how their hidden pain and social mask affect their relationships and contribute to feelings of misunderstanding and isolation. At the heart of the paradox surrounding the always smiling individual lies a painful interpersonal dynamic. The very smiles that invite others in often lead to misunderstanding, emotional distance, and profound isolation. While a smile is universally recognized as a signal of happiness and approachability, its overuse or compulsive performance can create a confusing and misleading social message. For those who smile constantly, the warmth they project is frequently mistaken for genuine contentment, making it difficult for others to perceive or acknowledge their hidden pain. This misreading happens because smiles serve as powerful social signals that convey safety, positivity, and emotional well-being. When someone is seen smiling all the time, others tend to assume they are coping well, that their life is smooth, and that they have little need for support or empathy. Unfortunately, this assumption often closes the door to deeper emotional engagement. Friends, family, and colleagues may hesitate to ask difficult questions or offer help because the smiling mask suggests there's no suffering beneath. From a psychodynamic perspective, this creates a tragic loneliness paradox. The always smiling person appears outwardly joyful and emotionally resilient, yet internally they may feel profoundly alone and misunderstood. Their smile, intended to bridge connection, becomes a barrier that prevents authentic intimacy. Because others do not see or acknowledge their true feelings, the person behind the smile is left to carry their burdens in silence. This loneliness is compounded by the social pressures that encourage and reinforce the performance of positivity. In many cultures, especially in contemporary Western society, there is a growing expectation to stay positive, keep smiling, and put on a brave face, regardless of what one may be experiencing internally. These norms often stigmatize expressions of sadness, vulnerability, or despair, implicitly labeling them as signs of weakness or failure. Consequently, individuals may learn to suppress genuine emotional expression in favor of socially acceptable smiles. This suppression is not merely about politeness, it becomes an unconscious defense mechanism, a way to avoid rejection, judgment, or discomfort from others. The smile thus functions as a socially sanctioned mask that preserves appearances and maintains social harmony, but at a great emotional cost. Psychodynamically, this dynamic reflects the tension between the persona, the social face we present, and the shadow, the unacknowledged parts of ourselves. The more one invests in the smiling persona to meet social expectations, the more disowned feelings and needs recede into the shadow. This internal split deepens the sense of alienation, not only from others, but also from one's own authentic self. The interpersonal consequences are significant. Over time, the always smiling person may find it difficult to form truly intimate relationships, as their emotional reality remains hidden beneath the mask. Friends and loved ones, despite their best intentions, may feel confused or frustrated, unsure how to reach the person behind the smile. Attempts to offer support can be met with deflection or denial, reinforcing the cycle of isolation. Moreover, the smiling mask can lead to emotional exhaustion for the individual. Constantly performing positivity requires significant psychological energy and vigilance, leading to burnout or emotional breakdowns when the mask inevitably slips. This can create moments of crisis that further alienate the person from their social circle, as their hidden pain suddenly becomes undeniable. Understanding these interpersonal dynamics invites a shift in how we relate to those who always smile. It calls for deeper empathy and awareness that beneath the cheerful exterior may lie complex emotional struggles. Rather than assuming happiness, we might learn to listen more carefully for subtle cues of distress and offer space for vulnerability without judgment. For the always smiling individual, recognizing these social pressures and interpersonal challenges can be an important step toward healing. It encourages them to find safe contexts where authentic feelings can be expressed and received with compassion, breaking the cycle of misunderstanding and isolation. In the final section, we will explore pathways to authentic healing, how embracing vulnerability, integrating the persona and shadow, and fostering genuine connection can help those who smile the most to find peace and wholeness beneath their masks. The journey from wearing a smile as a shield to embracing vulnerability as a path to healing is one of profound transformation. For the always smiling person, this shift involves the difficult yet deeply rewarding task of psychological integration, bringing together the polished persona with the concealed shadow, and learning to express true emotions without fear or shame. This integration is not simply about dropping the mask, but about weaving the many facets of the self into a coherent, authentic whole. Carl Jung taught that healing begins with recognizing the parts of ourselves we have disowned or denied. The persona, though necessary for social navigation, can become limiting if it eclipses the true self. The shadow, with all its pain, fears, and unmet needs, calls to be acknowledged and integrated. When the always smiling person begins to recognize and accept these shadow aspects, they make room for genuine emotional experience and self-acceptance. Central to this process is the cultivation of vulnerability, the willingness to show one's true feelings and imperfections without the need to hide behind a mask. While vulnerability can feel risky, it is also a powerful source of healing and connection. Psychologist Brené Brown's research on vulnerability confirms that authentic emotional expression fosters trust, intimacy, and resilience. For those who have habitually masked their pain with smiles, embracing vulnerability is a courageous act that challenges long-held defense mechanisms, but opens the door to deeper relationships and self-understanding. Authentic connection with others plays a crucial role in this healing journey. When the always smiling individual allows themselves to be seen as they truly are, flawed, hurting, and human, they invite empathy and support. This genuine relational engagement helps dismantle the isolation that arises from the mismatch between outward appearance and inner reality. It also validates the complexity of their emotional life, making it easier to process and transform underlying wounds. From a therapeutic standpoint, Jungian and psychodynamic approaches offer valuable tools for this integration. Dream analysis, for example, can reveal unconscious material from the shadow, bringing repressed emotions into conscious awareness through symbolic imagery. Therapists encourage clients to explore and dialogue with these symbols, fostering insight and emotional release. Active imagination, another Jungian technique, invites the individual to engage creatively with inner conflicts, personifying shadow aspects and allowing a transformative conversation between conscious and unconscious parts of the psyche. This imaginative work cultivates empathy toward oneself and reduces internal fragmentation. Psychodynamic therapy's focus on the therapeutic relationship provides a safe space for the always smiling person to experiment with expressing vulnerability without fear of judgment or rejection. The therapist serves as a witness to the client's hidden pain, offering acceptance that gradually weakens the need for the smiling mask. Practically, several steps can support this healing process. Self-reflection and journaling. Writing honestly about feelings beneath the smile can help bring unconscious pain into awareness and reduce the power of repression. Mindfulness and emotional awareness. Developing present-moment awareness of bodily sensations and emotions encourages acceptance rather than avoidance of difficult feelings. Setting boundaries, learning to say no, and assert personal needs counters the tendency to maintain a smile to please others at one's own expense. Seeking supportive relationships. Finding trusted friends or therapists who welcome vulnerability creates a nurturing environment for authentic expression. Creative expression, engaging in art, music, or movement therapies can access and release shadow material in nonverbal healing ways. Ultimately, embracing vulnerability behind the smile is a radical act of self-love and courage. It transforms the smile from a fragile mask of protection into a genuine expression of a resilient and integrated self. The always smiling person can learn not only to survive their hidden wounds, but to thrive through them, discovering depth, connection, and meaning beyond the facade. This path is neither quick nor easy, but it honors the complexity of the human psyche and the soul's longing for wholeness. By integrating persona and shadow, embracing vulnerability, and fostering authentic connection, those who smile the most hurt can find true healing, and a smile that reflects not concealment, but genuine joy.